Welcome and thank you for tuning in to the first edition of Rooted in Resilience webinar. This two-day webinar was hosted by NextGen Agri Voices in partnership with the Entrepreneurship Development Institute in celebration of Global Entrepreneurship Week 2025. NextGen Agri Voices is a storytelling and learning enterprise that works to amplify Africa's agricultural ecosystem through storytelling, learning, and strategic communications. Global Entrepreneurship Week is a global movement under the Global Entrepreneurship Network celebrated in over 200 countries. Entrepreneurship Development Institute is an autonomous quasi-governmental institution under the Ministry of Labor and Skills, leading Global Entrepreneurship Week implementation in Ethiopia. So, Rooted in Resilience webinar brought together young agripreneurs from across Africa to learn from each other, exchange honest experiences, and build meaningful connections within the agricultural ecosystem. Agriculture still remains the backbone of our continent's economy, and this series highlighted both the challenges and the breakthroughs that youth and women continue to navigate. It created space for real stories. So, across the 2 days, we heard speakers from multiple countries across Africa offering perspectives that showed how connected our experiences really are. This was the power of cross border learning. It reminded us that we are stronger when we share insights, support one another, and grow together. So, with Global Entrepreneurship Week's theme for 2025 being Together We Grow. Our hope is that this series continues to spark collaboration and community far beyond the sessions themselves. So, again, thank you for joining us and welcome to the Rooted in Resilience webinar. So, just making sure everyone is aware of that. So, formally, again, welcome to the Rooted in Resilience webinar, which we are organizing in partnership with the Entrepreneurship Development Institute in Ethiopia, while celebrating the Global Entrepreneurship Week, which again, the Entrepreneurship Development Institute is implementing in Ethiopia, as well as it's being implemented in other countries as well. So this Global Entrepreneurship Week is under the Global Entrepreneurship Network, or GEN. You can, again, look that up. We'll also send links in the chat box. So basically, we're here to celebrate what does entrepreneurship mean. In our case, we're going to focus on agriculture. So what does agripreneurship actually mean? How do you get African youth involved? What types of things should they look forward to and also really be keen on? So these would be the types of things we'd be discussing today in our webinar. On the first day, as I said, we focused on success. And on the second day, we wanted to talk about failure and pivoting, because this is a reality of, again, any business, or especially an agribusiness within Africa, because the challenges don't seem to stop at any time. So I think these types of real conversations are very much important for anyone who wants to, again, succeed or be a part of the sector, to truly understand what's expected of them and their business. So with that, I believe we have Michael here with us. So we'll start with our first case study presentation. So Michael, I'll be sharing your slides. Please let me know if there's anything else you need while presenting. It would be nice if we got to see you. I'm trying to locate you within this call. Okay. I've requested to unmute you, so please unmute yourself and say hello to our participants. I hope you can hear me.
All right, brilliant. Thank you very much, Meron. Please confirm if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, so I'm just gonna put on my camera, briefly, so you could put a face to the voice. Just to save some bandwidth, I might just put it off back while talking. I don't know if that's okay.
Yes, yes, I think that works. I hope you guys can
Great.
see the slides.
Yes, yes, um I can see the slides. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay. Okay. Now you can take over.
All right, thank you very much, Meron. Good afternoon, good morning, from wherever you're joining in that this webinar from. It's a pleasure to be here today to speak about this very, very interesting topic about how agribusinesses are navigating through the challenges in businesses. Africa is one very, very unique and very interesting space to run businesses. So it's very important that we share learnings, across regions, across boards, particularly for startups to pick up these lessons and continue to run with it. I also, before I go on, also want to thank Meron and the entire crew, um, the Global Entrepreneurship Network for putting up this very wonderful event, particularly for young Africans to learn firsthand from businesses how to manage businesses in the face of challenges, be it economic, be it political, different challenges that might play in your various countries. So yeah, it's an honor to speak here today. Thank you very much. And yes, I'll be speaking on how we at Palm Valley Nigeria Limited, apologies, how we at Palm Valley Nigeria Limited navigated or are still navigating because you don't get over challenges in businesses. They come in every now and then. Um, yes, so it's gonna be interesting time to share our experience on how we navigated through challenges at the early stage and through to our growth phase. Palm Valley Nigeria Limited is an agribusiness company operating in Nigeria, and we've been around for a while. We don't consider ourselves as startups anymore. We consider our company being in the growth phase at the moment because when we are speaking to other investors, they're very, very interested in, what we are doing, and they consider us at the, being in a very critical phase in the organizational life cycle. We were incorporated in 2008. And even though we've been active in the space before then, working as consultants and carrying out research activities, all in the agricultural space, but we came into full business. Great, thank you very much. Um, yes, so Palm Valley Nigeria Limited was incorporated in 2008, and we've been very active in the agricultural space for since that period, working specifically along the agricultural value chain. Um, our work, our scope of work centers strictly around providing embedded support services to smallholder farmers. And because we acknowledge the role smallholder farmers play in feeding the entire nation and if not Africa at large. Um, our founder, Mr. Ezekiel Jato, an agronomist, who spent years researching and working closely with smallholder farmers and also interfacing with a number of value chain actors like the financing institutions, the research institutions, identified the need to really provide sort of like a one-stop support services, embedded support services to farmers in order for them to grow their production. And that birthed the idea of establishing Palm Valley that will support farmers with technically what the most critical resources that they will need to carry out food production. It will interest you, which I think it's the same across Africa. Smallholder farmers produce, over 70% of the food that we consume, in country. And that puts a whole lot of responsibility on this group of people. So it's very important to provide them the necessary support that they need so we could achieve the food security goal across not just our countries, but across Africa at large. Um, so our vision is to improve the standard of living of women and youth in rural communities in Nigeria through agriculture and this is primarily because of how much we've understood the rural communities and the role women and youth play in food production. Over 65% of the farmers that we work with currently are women and young people across 5 states in Nigeria, and we are scaling up to 9 states from there. The total land area that's been covered by our farmers about 250,000 hectares being engaged in production of target crops, which we'll speak to much more later. So we started with focusing on food crops because food security was a strong target for us to boost in country. So we initially were promoting food crops like maize, rice, sorghum within our intervention within our target communities. And um, from learnings on how we work with the market, we decided to pivot to export crops, which we're going to speak to when we come to our section on the setbacks and our turning point. Just to reiterate, just to talk about our mission, which is to drive, empowerment in rural communities through support services and improved access to market. So if you look at our mission, we are considering the entire value chain from end to end. All right. So we are not picking just one specific area to work in, but we look at the smallholder farmer as someone who needs an end-to-end support from input support down to the market. And because they operate from the rural communities, they are mostly disconnected, from the entire chain. They don't have access to a number of these support services, that will enable them boost their productivity. So Palm Valley decided to come in, to bridge that gap for most smallholder farmers. Yeah, next slide, please. So over the years, just to speak about how, Palm Valley has moved or, pivoted through the different phases of its growth. Uh, um, we initially started our work with, like I did mention, uh, working closely with research institutions, working with partners to deliver certain services that will enable other partners intervening or supporting smallholder farmers who amplify their work. So we're not fully active along the value chain. But from 2008, we decided to step in strongly and we came in through delivery of extension services. We were primarily supporting with advisory extension services to farmers, enabling them to adopt best practices and partnering with actors that are coming in with new products that could boost productivity. I think one of our early partners that has worked with us throughout our growth phase is the OCP Africa. So they come in with products for smallholder farmers, and we support in the last mile delivery of those products and also delivery of extension services. So we started initially with that service as core, as a core part of our business. We begin to grow, all right, because extension service in Africa, particularly in Nigeria, is quite robust and very technical and requires a lot of resources. It involves engagement with the farmers periodically. Because of that, there were a lot of challenges that we faced as a company, and one of them was majorly um, the resources to be able to deliver that function effectively without the support of partners. So when partnership with people like OCP Africa, and it was difficult to continue to run to deliver extension services to farmers. So we needed to refine, to change our strategy, to see what we can do that will be more sustainable, not just to us as a company, but deliver more value to the farmers. So at that point, we now looked at the entire value chain. All right. With our experience working with the farmers, we highlighted key areas that are very challenging for the farmers. What are the gaps that existed? Where can we come in? What can we bridge, to create more value, that we can have more food being produced from our communities? And we decided to come in at critical point, which is the primary production, and that gave us the room to move into the second point that you can see here, the input financing service. So we noticed the farmer could have access to fertilizers, but they will lack access to improved seed. Now without that full package of improved seeds, connected to quality fertilizers. There'll always be, low productivity from the farmer's end. So we decided to come in to provide that complete support, embedded support services to the farmer. So we're providing, since 2015, started providing input financing to farmers, providing them package, bundles comprising of improved seeds, um, high quality fertilizers and biochemicals that could help, manage weeds and pests in their fields, alongside extension service that we started with initially. So we continued through that, a whole lot of challenges at the beginning, getting to meet farmers for the first time, where they need to trust you, they need to understand your model. We had those teething problems at the beginning, but with continuous engagement, with persistence, we keep working with them. We're able to gain their trust back, and I'm going to speak to this much more later. So, input financing is one of our core service. In fact, it's at the center of our business model. Extension service delivery. We promote last mile delivery of extension advisory services, and also high quality inputs to farmers. As we continue to grow, we noticed we cannot just work in one segment of the value chain. We need to extend our support services to cover other areas like markets, processing. How is the farmer accessing good warehousing, for post-harvest activities? So we decided to venture into commodity aggregation and warehousing. All right. So that's another support services we provide for farmers, alongside trainings, capacity development, for new communities that we get into that are new to our model or our processes. We, as a part of engaging those communities and farmers, we grown them through capacity development support services, to onboard them into our framework. The last part I want to speak on, it's sort of like the newest on our service list, which is the block farming. So for every of the services we provide, they come out of our learnings, our experience, okay, from engaging in the business. We notice while delivering extension service, because farmers have fragmented land parcels, they are dispersed, they are, um, they are distributed across different regions. We spend a lot of resources trying to deliver these support services to farmers. And that's why we came up with the block farming, which basically aggregates our farmers in a in a contiguous region for us to be able to work with them closely and provide service to them at a cost efficient, ways. So these are services that we work, and we work across a number of value chain crops, food crops, but particularly maize, rice, and for export crops, we work along ginger, sesame, and soybean. Next slide, please. All right, just to give you an idea of our business model, how we carry out our responsibilities or carry out our business activities. The rural community is central to our work. So for us, we are community based. We work closely with a number of communities because that's where we assess our smallholder farmers. So we carry out community engagement. And what do we do here? We engage with the farmers. We onboard them into cooperative groups. Each group has at least 25 members, and we further aggregate these groups to form a cluster. The cluster have about 5 cooperative groups together. So it becomes very easy for us to deliver our services to this group, to this aggregated group of farmers. So when we aggregate them, we finance their production because they have their land parcels already. It becomes easy to map them out based on regions, allocate them to different, sectors and provide them with input financing with a whole lot of, risk management or due diligence structures that we've built over the years. I'm not going to speak about that for the sake of time. So under our input financing, we provide seeds, fertilizers, as I mentioned earlier, and also we support our farmers with mechanization. And it's a new area that's not sort of new, but a lot of innovation, a lot of technology that's coming in mechanization that it's been rapidly taken up by farmers. So we're considering it a very new area that has not really been explored. Apart from the tractors, apart from, land preparation equipment, the whole lot that farmers have been exposed to, and that's boosting productivity. Also here we get directly involved in the production through the block farming where we aggregate our farmers together. We monitor strictly to ensure effective production. They follow good agricultural best practices and ensure that optimal monitoring is provided to the farmers at the point. We don't just leave them there. We also ensure aggregation and warehousing is provided. We establish what we call satellite aggregation centers in different communities where we work. And at the end of the day, we step in as the off-takers, the market agents that picks up from the farmers because we have linkages with high-end processors in the country. So we serve as the link between the cooperatives and the high-end, buyers. Next slide, please. Yes, so moving to our journey, which will speak a whole lot about our experience, from inception where we failed, setbacks we've had, and how we've managed these challenges, worked through, pivoted into where we are now, and how we are also planning for the future. Um, since inception, when we got incorporated in 2008, we were supporting farmers majorly with extension service, like I did mention earlier. One of our strong partner then was OCP Africa, where we worked with the AgriBooster project to help push out some of the products that will, boost productivity in terms of soil fertility. So yeah, from 2015, we got involved in input financing, a whole lot of challenges in that end. And moving on to 2000, from 2000 and 2020 to 2022, we started, investing in markets. We launched, the forward integration into off-taking or buying from the farmers and linking them to high-end buyers within the country. Very important again, speaking about how we navigated challenges, which I'm going to speak to again from 2023. We started working with other partners that provided grant funding for us to support more smallholder farmers within our region. So we established partnerships with key organizations like AGRA. We implemented a gender resilience project that further reached out to more smallholder farmers to enable them have access to agricultural support services. Not just Agra, we're able to engage with Mastercard Foundation through the Icon 2 project, reaching out close to 150,000 smallholder farmers, with over 50% being women. Currently working with IDH to promote regenerative agriculture in rural communities, supporting them with initiatives around agroforestry and tree planting. So throughout our journey, some of these partners remain very key, and they continue to work with us. Partners like OCP Africa, as I mentioned from the beginning, we continue partnership even up to date. So going forward from 2000 and from date from to, like from present, we are looking at investing in expanding or scaling up our business into processing fully. We're looking at processing of ginger, sesame, and to produce high grade export, a quality grain for high value markets. So over the years, we've been able to change our model, refine our strategy based on challenges that we've seen or we express as a business. I'm going to be speaking to that in the next slide. I will see someone asking what specific challenges that we faced in our business. So next slide, please. Great. Thank you very much. So here we come to what are those specific challenges we faced as a business. I'm going to leave out, I'm going to come back, I'm going to start from the second and move and work my way down. And I'll come back to the first point, which is government policies at the end. So, as a startup, from when we got incorporated, as it is with every business, right? You have a brilliant idea, you have a wonderful proposal, your impact statement is very clear, everybody likes it, but again, who gets to fund you because you don't have as much as you want to start with. All right. So funding here, it's sort of like a unique, and it comes from a different perspective. Not necessarily we have in the cash or the money to say, okay, we want to fund this, but looking out for partners, all right, who have the resources and are willing to work with us to say, okay, let's work with 1,000 farmers for a start. All right. That was quite challenging because we've not built that reputation at the beginning, even though we know a number of actors in the space, um, looking at the context of where we are working also, um, a lot of distrust in the industry. It was quite challenging kicking off. All right, funding was very hard, and that made us look external to the banks and to see how we can raise strong partnership and, get funding to kickstart, our input financing program, primarily around 2015. Interest rates were not favorable, but we're able to start something at that point. And I know most startups will have this challenge. It's everywhere. They'll tell you bootstrap starts with what you have, and you know well that what you have might not be able to get you started, but you just have to start anyway, and that's what we did. All right. We started with very small number. All right. That we could 500. We scaled up the next year, 1,500. So we keep moving and keep growing. We'll plow back our revenues, plow back our, profits, whatever we make from, gains from our business activities, we plow it back. And we started building credibility with some of our partners, particularly the banks. So they started seeing our work, and that trust started coming in. And I could remember we started, receiving attention from some of the microfinance banks who wanted to work with us because it also meets some of their KPIs. So with funding, it's a gradual process, working with partners for you to build trust, with them. It wasn't an easy flow. Um, Again, because you're starting, you don't know so much yet happening in the funding space, in the agricultural sector. Intervention funds were available, but because you're sort of a startup, you don't have full access to the amount that you want to use to, kickstart your business. So that was a very, very strong challenge that we had when we started. The market, very, very strong setback, because we don't control prices. All right. And something around fluctuations with, price fluctuations with food crops, particularly grains, is something we continue to experience up to date. When high value buyers have sort of like absolute control over the market, big processors, they could determine price, at specific times, as they want. It affected how much we could, support or reckon at the end of the season, over the years. We still feel a number of them now, just that we've built resilience and built in one or two strategies that will help us overcome them. Accessing the high-end market at the very beginning was quite challenging. We had to engage in what we call the general market or the open market, as every other entrepreneur will engage with at that particular point. So we didn't have a specific market that we could supply, or we could work with, that could give us premium, or that could give us high value for our produce. So that was quite challenging for us. Sociocultural risk, I think this was very, very strong for us because our farmers needed to trust us. There was high default rate at the beginning. Farmers are very unique people. They need to build trust with you before your work gets really accepted. A lot of sociocultural factors affected us at the beginning. We were having high default rates, and not until we really came down to understand some of the dynamics in the communities, we've known you for a long time. Why are you not paying up your loans? Why are we having defaults? Okay. And we have to spend more resources to recover these loans. And okay, so it took a lot of time before we were able to, crack that nut with communities. I think one of the solutions that we came up with, and that was very, very useful going forward, was to allow the communities lead on this process. That was very, very important for us. So bringing in the communities early, allowing them to define the structure on how they want to run with the loan, also looking at some of the conditions that you have put down. I mean, nobody understands the context better than the communities themselves. So that was a key setback for us. High default rates, um, the farmers' trust. Insecurity was key for us because at some point, communities clashing, farmers could not retrieve their crops from the field, and it led to a lot of defaults or a lot of loss. That was key for us. Perception, because we have a lot of development organizations working here and there. Humanitarian organizations working in high risk areas, influence of the work they do spread across to where we also work. So you have performers having the perception of whatever you give out to them should be free, all right, because they are disadvantaged, they need to be helped, so those are some of the early challenges that we faced. Moving on to the last one for the sake of time. You could navigate through all these challenges and get hit by government policies. Probably at the end of the day, the government will now open the borders and, the flooding with, soybean, maize, rice, and the market just have to go down, you know. So it has a strong connection with the third challenge, which is the market, dealing a lot with government policies and as it relates to economic conditions in the country. So these are some of the very strong challenges or setbacks we've had along the journey. So when you lose in a particular year, it takes a lot to convince your financing partner that next year is going to be better. All right. So it takes a partner that really understands your model, understands the pain points, that these are beyond your control to really invest in the next year. Next point, please. So looking at our turning points, how we navigated our way through these different challenges. The first is we had to refine our strategy, all right, and focus on the entire value chain. Now, this involved us, diversifying. First, we were having we're focusing on extension services. And we realized that's not sustainable. All right. Number one, we're having issue, we're having challenges, bringing up, partners that could support us, to drive extension to the last mile. But we now realized, we now thought about it. Even if we have this, why can't we do more? So we have to restructure our model, refine our strategies. Okay, let's look at the value chain end to end and see that we provide our support um, to the farmers. And also, we pivoted from food crops and focused on export crops. That gave us a lot of leverage, a lot of value, in what we are doing. Secondly, partnership, and this was very major for us. Meeting certain investors, certain partners that really understood what we are doing, had passion for work that we do, changed a whole lot of things that for us. Some of the challenges, like at the point when the market will fail us, some of the banks will come in and give us a guarantee that will help us stay afloat, within that period. So that was very, very strategic for us. All right. And moving on to having access to some intervention facilities, that, have very, very low interest rates was also very helpful. So partnership was a game changer for us at some of these critical points where we are having issues. Sustainability, for us, we just have to keep looking forward, right? Just have to keep looking forward. And one of the strategy we adopted then was, changing our priority crops and the markets that we want to serve. That helped us, overcome some of the present challenges that we are facing, and help us build a long-lasting system, that continue to drive our business, forward. So working through these three major um, strategies helped us, worked around some of the challenges and setbacks we had, since 2008, and it has defined where we are today, particularly how we refined our model and the partners that we work with. It helped paved a very clear path, for us to build a strong vision for our organization. Next slide, please. Rounding up now. Um, some of the lessons we would love to share on how we've built resilience over the years. And we could also share this with other entrepreneurs, particularly young entrepreneurs, those that have startups, that are running startups. First, ensure internally you have a strong corporate governance. I think this was one major factor that helped us. While we were building, we were, strengthening our systems internally. We're ensuring our finance systems were compliant. We made sure we have a good corporate governance system. Our board were in place on time. We have a senior management team that makes critical decisions. For example, which loan facility to take, which not to take, that sort of a thing. Very, very helpful. And we continue to build that. And one very important thing is when the partners came, they met us at a very strong point already. So it was easy to flow with a number of them. All right. Our focus was on sustainability, like I mentioned earlier, gave us the energy, the courage, all right, and the hope to continue to, strive in the face of every challenge. For example, we'll say, why, how can we survive managing 50,000 farmers next year if we cannot manage 10,000 this year? So it just keeps us moving, yeah? It keeps us moving. And impact, we make sure our communities are better every year. All right. If we say we want to improve your productivity, we want to ensure you grow your income, we stay true to that, to that mandate. Persistence and boots on the ground. You just have to be there, all right? You have to be there in the communities. We are always there in the communities, engaging with the community leaders and engaging with the cooperative leaders and the rest of them. So it makes us understand the dynamics, the challenges firsthand. We could think down up, from the communities. And partnership, I've said enough about this. And lastly, innovating inside out. So we don't take innovation outside first. We look at innovation from inside. How can we optimize our own processes just to make sure we make things more efficient? All right. Our internal processes, operational programs, everything, we ensure we bring them together and optimize, create efficiency before we start thinking about how can we innovate to create value outside. Um, these are practical learnings that we have been able to build on how young organizations growing through to growth phase like us will be able to strengthen their resilience going forward. So I think this is the last slide. And apologies for taking so much time. So like I said, we are very open to partnership. Please feel free to contact us. These are our details. And let's work together to build, to continue to grow agriculture in Africa. Thank you very much. Over to you, Meryl.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. Let's give him a virtual round of applause. You could use the reaction button at the bottom of the screen. Thank you so much. This was very informative and I think insightful for a majority of, again, the agri-tech startups, the agripreneurs that we have here with us in the call. So I think a lot of people have enjoyed it. It was very detailed. So we'll also share Michael's details as well as his company's details if you want to keep the connection, also if you have questions, maybe more specific to your company that you'd want to also discuss with him. So we have a few questions in the chat box. So let's address. I think we have time for 2 questions. So we have Dilawit here, who will be helping me co-facilitate this part. So Adil, you can take over, I think, from the questions proposed in the group. Please choose 2, and then Michael could answer those 2 questions. And then after that, we'll go to our panel discussion.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you for that insightful presentation. So we have a few questions here. The first one is, how does PVNL put its mission into practice when working with rural communities?
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that question. So, how does PVNL put its mission into practice when working with rural communities? So, if you look at our model that I presented earlier, very simple. We just bring everything down to the communities. All right, our starting point. Um, we've over the years identified what the challenges are, what are the issues, what are the gaps, all right? And the gaps are basically access. So we bring access to these rural communities in a nutshell. So for us, how we live our mission is to make sure every single farmer that we are interfacing with have access to the key resources he needs to carry out his agricultural production, sorry. So if you have access to seeds through us, if you have access to fertilizers through us, if you have access to markets through us, and at the end of the day, we're able to measure your yield increase and see you're gaining more, all right, and you have more income, our mission is fulfilled at the community level. All right. So we work with our farmers from end to end to make sure their livelihoods are improved. And we have tons of stories, a lot of stories of how parents have been able to send their children to school because they were able to have more bags of maize, or they've been able to harvested more soybean, or they've been able to, cultivate more hectares of land. That's, all the stories. So for us, like I said, to create access in the communities. If our farmers have access, and at the end of the day, they produce more, and not just producing more, they have more income. Our mission is fulfilled. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that answer. We have time for one more question. And for any questions we don't get to today, we're very sorry. We'll follow up with you in the WhatsApp group. So the next question is, what key challenges facing rural women and youth is PVNL working to solve?
Thank you very much. That's a very brilliant question. For the sake of time, because of time, I couldn't go into some of the challenges that women, faced. So under the social-cultural setbacks that, I did mention under the challenges part, close to 70% of those affect, with just about women. And the major, issue or factor or challenge, that I want to talk about as it affects first women is access to productive resources, access to land. Over the years, because we bring in both women and men, we've learned a lot of things about how they respond to our business, how they respond to our support services. Now, because of cultural inclinations, cultural backgrounds, a lot of the households are men, they're men led. They're led by the men. So we have less of these women having access to land parcels to carry out their own production activities. So that is one. Now we also noticed there are a lot of socio-cultural connections or attachments that affected affected women in these communities. All right. They're all connected. Health, um, uh, socioeconomic, a lot of these factors, all right, affect women in these communities. Um, when these women are not in good health state, they don't get access to the health, they don't have access to, healthcare. That ultimately affects the entire household, all right, who has already taken loan from PVNL, that sort of a thing. So it becomes like a revolving issue within the community. So if we're able to address a particular issue as it pertains to women, let's say provide them access to land through our block farming, it helps break a lot of challenge as it pertains to women. So to make my response very short, access to resources, all right, is one of the major challenge that faces both women and youth. For youth, because they've not been able to build capacity, they're young, they don't have, even if they have access to land, they don't have the mechanization, they don't have the inputs, to go into the kind of scale that they want. All right. It often limits their capacity to produce much as they will want to. So for women, basically access to land and norms within the community, amenities, all right, healthcare facilities, care centers that will affect, their own livelihood, ultimately affect how much they're involved in agriculture. So this has been our experience. And very importantly, when we engage with women, all right, their response are mostly better in terms of repayment of loans compared to men. All right, and this we understand because naturally, they are trustworthy and they're more committed, to activities that revolves around financing. So yeah, in a nutshell, these are some of the challenges that we faced in the communities. Thank you very much.
All right, perfect. So those would be the only two questions we take for today. But we have this WhatsApp group we've created. We have also some participants from yesterday, so we'll post any of the questions that you have here into that group, so Michael can answer, and then we'll send voice notes into the group, so you guys get your answers. So with that, Michael, thank you again so much for that very good case study presentation. We believe these types of like real life experience sharing is quite important for a lot of people, especially for someone who's passed through it. This could be a really good inspiration for up and coming agripreneurs or agtech founders. So thank you so much for that. So now we'll move on to our panel discussion. So for the panel discussion today, again, the topic would be very similar to the case study presentation, which is lessons from failure and recovery in the African agripreneurship space or context. So we have our panelists here with us. I've highlighted them. I hope they can unmute their mics and say hi while I do the basic introductions. All right. So our first panelist was also our case study presenter, was Michael Odeh from Palm Valley Nigeria Ltd. He's the technical program and strategy lead. So he has over 12 years of experience in agribusiness and market system development. Michael has worked across multiple value chains, which some he's also explained in his presentation, to truly strengthen resilience and productivity for thousands of smallholder farmers within sub-Saharan Africa. At Palm Valley, Nigeria, he leads technical programs and strategic operations, drawing lessons from both success and challenges to shape more sustainable and adaptive agribusiness models. Second, we have Elizabeth Manda Sanja, who's the founder of Agro Queens Agribusiness Consultancy in Zambia. So she's an award-winning agronomist and founder of Agro Queens. and she's currently redefining agripreneurship through agriculture, livestock, and vegetable production. She's known online. She's very famous online. Go and check out her Facebook page as the Young Farmer Manda. That's her username. So she uses her platform mainly through social media to inspire a lot of young people and women to embrace agriculture with innovation and pride. So her work champions self-sufficiency, job creation, and community empowerment across Africa. And then our third panelist is Deogratias J. Majero, who's the Youth Engagement Manager for Kabi, based in Kenya. He is an accomplished youth development practitioner with extensive experience designing and scaling youth employment programs across Africa, the UK, Asia, and the Middle East. So his work focuses on fostering youth leadership, digital inclusion, and socioeconomic empowerment, particularly within agriculture and technology sectors. Within Kabi, DO leads initiatives that integrate youth into agricultural, environmental, and climate programs, which I was also lucky to also take part in one of the trainings, agribusiness trainings they had in Makwene County a week ago. So they're doing really amazing work with young people here in Kenya. They're also trying to create partnerships with different government and private sector, as well as development organizations within the sector, so as to create sustainable opportunities for young people. I think last week I got to meet one of the cooperative chairwomen, one of the agriculture cooperatives within Makwene County, and that is one of their partners. So they're doing so much to make sure that the youth also work with the right partners. So we're very lucky and honored to have you guys here. For the sake of internet, Elizabeth won't be able to turn on her camera, but it's okay. This will do. All right. Just to make sure that your mic is working, please unmute yourself so we can hear you guys.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm audible enough. Our network has been so terrible these last few days.
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible, Elizabeth. We can hear you. Dio,
Okay.
please unmute your mic.
Hi, Meron. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. We can hear you.
Great.
So now,
Thanks for having me.
Thank you guys for joining again. So we can start our panel discussion. So we're gonna take 2 to 3 minutes maximum to answer each of the questions that we have, because we have to close off this webinar by 5:30, maximum by 5:40. So we're trying our best to make sure that we finish on time. So Michael, I'll start with you. So the first question that I have for you is, so looking back at the case study that you presented for us, so what were the key turning points that helped Palm Valley navigate setbacks? Maybe if you could tell us 2 key turning points that really helped Palm Valley to pivot into the current state of growth it's in.
All right, thank you very much, Meron. So thank you so much for the question. Along our entrepreneurship journey, there are key moments that defined, turning points, the key moments that we consider turning points for us as a business, right? And I'm going to start with the first in 2018, when we made the decision to refine our strategy to provide end-to-end support, to smallholder farmers, and to particularly go into input financing. And that came as a result of looking at how sustainable delivering just one service, all right, along the value chain will be for us as a business, and also the value or impact that will have on the smallholder farmer. So even though small extension service is very, very important, it just addresses a specific problem. And if other factors are not addressed, it becomes useless. So that decision to focus end-to-end service delivery, for our farmers, really opened up a whole new, business area for us as a company. We're able to look at input financing, we're able to look at logistics, we're able to look at warehousing and up to market. All right. So that was a critical turning point for us. And we're just looking for funding or support for extension service. It expanded our scope, to look at to look at broader areas. Secondly is partnership. Um, Meeting just one partner really made us understood that we can't solve these things, we can't do these things alone. All right. As a business, even though your business idea is brilliant, is wonderful, you still need people, you need partners, to drive this value down to the target end users. And meeting some of the key partners in the business, like I did mention earlier, OCP Africa and some of the banks, Sterling banks, was a critical turning point for us, all right, in our business. Our first engagement with the bank, I remember, um, even though we were very optimistic we were going to get, the amount we were looking at, from the bank. The information alone that we got really helped us. So reaching out, networking with key stakeholders along the value chain where you're working is very, very important. So for me, two turning points for us was in 2018, where we were able to refine our strategies to deliver end-to-end value chain support. And in 2019, 2020, when we had a strong partnership with the bank, that opened up, that cracked the financing, funding, canal for us, well, was very critical to our business. Yeah, thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Our next question is for Elizabeth. So also reflecting on the case study presentation that we just got from Michael. So what similarities do you see, especially from the case study in Nigeria compared to Zambia? So what similarities do you see with challenges faced by young agripreneurs in Zambia and maybe the region?
Thank you very much for the presentation. Across the world, a lot of the challenges that farmers and young people face in agriculture are more or less the same. We can talk of issues of, financing. That is actually one of the biggest challenges that I would say that, young people face. Access to finance is one of them. You find that in Zambia, some of the challenges would be, for example, you're a young person, you require financing, and maybe that financing requires you to have things like collateral. You find young people don't have, land or titles to their name. So this becomes a challenge. However, other things, like climate change, that's something that we are currently facing in Zambia. So you find like last rain season, poor or low distribution of rainfall. Also a challenge that, young people getting into agriculture that don't have, access to water, for example, boreholes, and maybe depending on rain-fed cropping farming systems. So this becomes a huge challenge, and therefore, yields are reduced and, entering into losses. So in terms of, challenges, access to finance remains one of, the biggest challenges. We also have issues in terms of our power. So we have quite a bit of load shedding. So this also affects production in one way or another. But in terms of similarities, the access to finance is one of them. And then those are some of the challenges that, young people are facing in Zambia.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I feel like we should have added like a banker or someone from the finance space to this panel discussion. That's the idea I'm having while you guys are sharing this very similar concepts, because again, access to finance is one of the biggest things, especially again for a lot of young people within the sector, really like struggle with. So I think that was a really good point to share. Thank you so much. So our next question is for Dio. So from your experience, especially working with youth across Africa, what support mechanisms have helped young agripreneurs recover from failure and also pivot successfully? Maybe together with this, you can tell us how can you use programs. You can also mention the model that Kabi is using, and ecosystem actors properly like foster a culture of learning from setbacks rather than fearing failure.
Thank you, Myron, for having me. And it was really, really, I think, very insightful listening from Michael, and also just listening from Elizabeth briefly when she talks about her experience specific to her country. I think I'll just think about maybe 3 areas briefly in which we could support our young people, especially those that are seeking to recover and pivot beyond failure and challenges. And I would start with thinking about community. So in this case, I'm thinking about an element of peer mentorship. Because when young people have mentorship, both from experience but also their peers, then they are able to get, some sort of guidance from people who have real experience, and they can share similar journeys. And this, failure is perceived to be not really perceived, but is actually stigmatized most of the time. But if there is that kind of peer community where these young persons in agripreneurship can actually be supported, then that reduces the stigma of failure. But it also creates an opportunity for, peer-to-peer kind of accountability and some level of practical advice. Because sometimes you hear about advices and they're very academic, and when things are academic, sometimes we lose that. So I think that's one element I think about, a strong support system from those that have been there, but also peers that are already going through the journey, so that we look at learning as failure as an opportunity to learn. I think the second one has already been alluded to by both Elizabeth and Michael, and this is really around flexible financing that can be faced, you see. Many a times when failure happens, we tend to imagine, oh, it was not a great idea. When in fact, the ideas that young people have from the work I've seen and working with over 1,200 young people across different locations and countries in Africa, setting up their own agribusinesses, the ideas are always great. But the financing models have always been rigid. And Elizabeth just mentions an element of need for collateral, for example. And I mean, this young person has just rented land, for example, or borrowed land that does not belong to them. Or even if it belongs to the family, they don't have that ownership. So looking at flexible, funding that can be phased into small bits and pieces that are more like milestone based. Because if they are milestone based, then it means you're able to move from one phase to another. And we had a lot of that from Michael's, journey all the way from 2018 to now. This also allows the young people to test, to adapt, but also to pivot, without saying, the initial failure or mistakes they made have to be stuck to, the kind of rigid financing model, which then ends up with sometimes ending up with these young people in debt. And, there's nothing as bad as having debt when you don't have a very sustainable income. So that level of financing would be great. I think the very final thing I think about is really real-time information around markets, because young people's production and agricultural enterprises are affected by these, elements of climate, pest disease, but significantly also price fluctuations. And for us to get our young people to bounce back, then we need to also help them have the technical understanding of critical market information, market intelligence that also enables them to I would say plan what is on demand if they're in production, if they're in value addition as well, just thinking about products that are able to speak to the markets, be able to build up very practical business models. So I think very critical to think about real-time market information. And I thought you asked me something about learning setbacks. Just take me to the second question, please, so I can be able to get your answer.
Okay. So the second question is, so how can youth programs and ecosystem actors foster a culture of learning from setbacks rather than feeling failure? Which again, you somehow touched upon in the first answers, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll just build up on what I've said. Failure and pivoting is part of the process. And I was very delighted to kind of just listening to Michael sharing how they changed the strategy to adapt to realities. So I think us normalizing failure as an opportunity to learn and part of what I would call the innovation cycle in enterprise development, whether in agriculture or other spaces, it's important. So we should openly get opportunities where agripreneurs, both young and experienced and older, can share real stories so that we don't always end up. I mean, I think because I work in the development sector, we always amplify success. And many a times you end up, amplifying 20% of people that are successful, and there's a whole 80% we left out who are learning, pivoting, but because they are not yet there, we leave them out. And we really need to see examples of agribusiness leaders who failed, pivoted, and they are succeeding. Because this shifts the culture of perception and blaming, and it becomes, understanding that failure is actually a position to learn. And I think this could also be built into, our program structures. Like, delighted hearing about Michael's partnerships with Agra, Mastercard Foundation, and the other partners. Just thinking about how we put reflection and learning into, embedded within programs so that there's an opportunity for us to learn from failure. There's an opportunity for us to work together with young people to redesign their approaches, confidently saying, I failed, but I learned something that I can pivot into a better opportunity. And I think one of the last things I'll talk about is also having worked with young people's projects. One of the things I realize we do a lot is we reward success, which, as I said earlier, only picks the few who are at the top. I think it's an opportunity for us to also work with young people to reward what I would call adaptation. How far has somebody adapted? Pivoted and still maintained the consistency and determination. And if we get a chance to recognize those, then we have the opportunity, as I said earlier, to just tell these stories practically as a show. And this would actually show that young people's journey matters more than the destination. Nobody just wakes up and has the most successful agribusiness. I think the journey of adaptation along the way, celebrating those who get it right, fail, succeed, and keep going is very important. And the last thing I would mention is this. Let's always create safe spaces. I think there's very limited safe spaces for founders, including Meron, yourself, and others, to actually just breathe in and talk about the challenges we go on. I feel like the world is very competitive. And if I'm a founder and I'm running something, I want to be like Manda, but I don't know how much and how long Manda has put in. I want to be like Michael. But Michael tells me he's been here for how long? Close to 16 years now. Is it 16? Maybe, I don't know. More than 10 years. So the idea really is, can we have a kind of an ecosystem, a safe space that we can all learn and challenge ourselves and tell our stories and just be like, it's okay to be a great founder. Success will come. But can we breathe in and out and just learn how the journey comes and celebrate the short milestones? Meron, back to you.
Perfect. Dio, you just basically demonstrated to us why you work also with young people, because it was a very simple question I feel like I asked, but the way you answered was quite insightful. I feel like everyone would agree, even those who, let's say, are not founders or like agripreneurs. I think this is quite insightful. As you said, like mentorship is a big part of someone, especially a young person who's starting out within this sector, which is again one of the biggest parts of your program for Kavi as well. So I think I've also like in person seen how successful that is for a lot of the agribusiness owners, young agribusiness owners. Having mentors who are also agripreneurs is so important. Lived experiences are so much better than, again, something out of a textbook or from a certain either from other parts of the world, which again don't really make sense within our context. So I think that is quite important. And something also just for every agripreneur out there, I think one of the biggest things we need to do nowadays is like build publicly. I think that is very important. The current generation really needs to build publicly, and through that, it's very easy to also embrace failure. As Dio said, failure is an opportunity to learn. So I think the best way to embrace that is when you build publicly. So you take your target audience or whoever you're trying to reach throughout the whole journey and process, so they see how you're building. So failing for them again is something that you'd get back from at least at some point. So the journey of adoption matters more than the destination. I feel like that is one quote I have taken, again, especially within this sector. Agriculture is so complicated. It's not just another tech startup or like another business that you're launching. There's so many factors that play in. So I think you gave us really good insight. So next, we'll move on to Michael. So Michael, the question that I have for you, yes. So like the basic essence of your presentation is like resilience. It's learning from setbacks. So how do you approach building resilience in your team when faced with like repeated challenges within this ecosystem? Because from the journey you took us in, I'm sure your team had a big part to play in that. I hope so. But so how do you see how do you see building resilience within your team when faced with these types of challenges?
All right, thank you very much, Meron. Very interesting to hear Elizabeth and Gil speak about experiences and all the great contributions that they provided. I mean, they all align with what we are talking. What we are planning as an organization, and also experiences we've also had. Um, like I said initially, we innovate inside out. So we focus strongly on how we build our internal systems, and the team that we build is a core part of what we do. In fact, they fuel our work, our model. They are the center part, the people we work with. Resilience in our business is driven by our team. I mean, we can't do anything outside our team, these people, the people we work with. And for us, this is very important, and that's why we pay attention from the very beginning. From when we are bringing the team on board, from each selection process, we make sure we bring on board people that have true passion for agricultural development, people that have true passion for working with smallholder farmers. The whole employment space is changing right now, right? I believe we've all heard about the new wave of Gen Zs and how it's influencing workspace, and all that. It's quite different because we're in the agricultural space. A lot of every agri-tech guys want to be app developers. Very rare, very few people want to, wear their boots and go meet the farmer on the field, all right, and sit down to really discuss with the farmer, what pest are you, what kind of disease, or what, that sort of a thing. So for us, it's very key to pick those really interested in working in agriculture. And because the core of our business is in production, we are very particular about that, right? From the very beginning. It's not an easy task managing the young people, all right? Bringing these very intelligent people together to work as a team. Never been an easy task, but it's always the best decision we've ever made to bring people genuinely interested in agriculture. Now, we also try to keep our team small, right? So even though we've been here for 16 years, like Gio just mentioned, yeah, we don't like to bite more than we can chew, right? We love to keep our team small, focused on making more impact, right? So we keep our team small and we make sure we get them involved in every part of our business. We try to be inclusive as possible. So if we are doing recruitment, they are all part of it. If we are doing recovery, so they feel every part of our business. And the inclusion part is not just having them as team members, as employees. We encourage them to establish their own farms. Now, we are providing inputs to farmers. How best can you teach a farmer, if you don't practice the same thing that you want to go teach the farmer? So we encourage them, we provide them inputs. A farmer, you can, as a team member, you can, in fact, it's against the law not to have a farm, to work with us. Yeah, so with all this, they feel very motivated, working with us. And if peradventure there's any economic shake, like when there's inflation, you see our team members thriving. So this is just general, right? Apart from every other motivational trainings and activity based that will help strengthen their capacity, stuff that we do to keep them yeah, work should be lively, right? Particularly if you're in the food sector. Yeah, so yeah, Miriam, that's what we do. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think, yeah, like within this sector, it's very hard when it comes to, team formation. How do you recruit? How do you retain? What type of people do you need? Especially again, as we said, while recruiting Gen Zs, also people from like the other generations as well. It's quite important also to understand how do you synergize the whole team to make sure they're productive. Because one point that was raised in yesterday's webinar is our case study presenter from Senegal was telling us that technology is the facilitator. So especially within AgTech's piece, that was like a note that he had for like the AgTechs that were in the call. It's like technology at the end of the day is a facilitator. So you need to understand the sector, you need to understand agriculture, you need to understand how smallholder farmers operate, how they are these agricultural experts, how do you work with them. So it's very much important to understand how this sector operates, to also be a better, tech person or like a software engineer or like a software developer. So I think these types of things are very much important, again, when it comes to recruitment as well, because that really fuels if, again, your company strives or not. Unfortunately, Elizabeth is having issues with internet, so she's left the call, but she'll try to join us. So Dio, will go to you. Our next question for you is, so based on what you've observed, especially from Michael's case study presentation, what lessons are most valuable for scaling resilient, use-led agribusinesses across Africa? Anything you want to share? Yeah, if you've already touched on it, additional points, yeah, feel free.
Thank you very much. I think I'm just gonna start by building up on what Michael said. Don't chew too much that you can't swallow. I don't know if that's how it's said, but like, start where you are. It's great. Be patient. Agriculture as a sector is very dynamic. There are some very external impacts that can come, and you may not have control over them. Zambian case, they have load shedding, and then they have the limited, lots of drought, and so they need the water, they need power, and it can be a lot. Be patient. Start small. I was making some notes actually when I was listening to Michael. And I thought it's great that, Michael, while you began with a focus on one element, there's something that I learned or I heard from you that I would love to share at this point is also look at the existing opportunities along the whole value chain. See where your entry point is, but do not hold back on jumping onto another existing opportunity. If you're great with, providing extension advisory, great. But then one of the things we realize is the moment you provide extension advisory services, farmers increase their production. The moment farmers increase their production, they have a good problem, which is where to sell, the market. So then you can see that as an opportunity to actually start, whether it's aggregation or market linkages, it's an opportunity, but it's really for me is start where you are and then map out those opportunities one step at a time. One of the things I usually also say is, in as much as we are great founders and innovators, sometimes we are already testing things out that may have already been done by someone else. So be willing to learn, be willing to connect, network, and please find strategic partnerships. I think strategic partnerships have really helped youth-led innovations, agripreneurship, ideas to become live and sustainable. So look out around strategic partnerships. If you're struggling with funding, who could be the people that can give you grants or, low interest loans or can be willing to journey with you? And I believe there are quite a lot if you can position yourself authentically. And as you do that, don't be isolated. I think don't isolate yourself because running innovative new businesses can leave you drained. They can leave you with burnout. be patient with yourself, be kind to yourself, and connect more with other people. And I think the very last point I put down here is leverage technology. I want to agree with Meron, you mentioned about yesterday's presenter. Technology is an enabler. Don't look at technology as the project. No, technology should enable you start from somewhere and achieve what you want. And so if technology can lessen the time, the effort, the input that you have to put into your business, please leverage that, Mero.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dio. So I'm now going to go to our last questions. So Michael, this is the last question that I have for you. It's going to be the same question for everyone. Hopefully, if Elizabeth joins as well, she'll be able to answer this. So since we have a lot of like agripreneurs within Africa who are in this webinar, so if you could give them one piece of advice or one message for emerging African agripreneurs, what would it be?
All right. Thank you very much, Meron. And thank you, Dio. In fact, Dio just picked everything that I needed to talk about. So I could just say refer to Dio's comments, right? Yeah. I mean, I think, like Dio said, we need to be truthful to ourselves as young people. Okay, be truthful to yourself. Own your vision. Okay, own your vision. Entrepreneurship is not an easy game. It's not. Let's be truthful to ourselves. You're gonna doubt your sanity some days. You're gonna be happy on other days. You're gonna question why you even came to planet Earth. That sort of a thing. But own your vision. From my end, I would say also be forward looking. That will give you a whole lot of energy to keep moving. Keep building. Stay on the problem long enough. You're gonna find a solution. All right. I think I was advising. I think I was talking to Maren some time back during I was like, if you have a problem, all right, and you find it difficult, go to sleep. Take a good sleep. Take a good sleep. All right. I don't know if it's divinity but somehow you're gonna have a solution by morning. All right. So yeah, I mean, for my end, one word. Okay, this is more than one word now. Just keep building. All right. Keep believing yourself, and most importantly, keep looking forward. All right. Don't look at the present. Look at the goal. Look at the North Star. Yeah, the market for agribusiness is huge. There's a market for that business idea that you have. Yeah, I think that'll be all for me. Thanks.
Right, perfect, Michael. Yes, that's one of piece of advice. I think it was during FSF in Senegal. He told me, now you have your own business. So before every big decision, take a nap. That's what he told me. That was the piece of advice again from 16 years of experience within this sector. So again, that's the piece of advice he's also provided to you guys. Dio, so what's one message also you have for young people?
Meron, I shouldn't tell Michael that I've also had almost war with you, saying you should sleep. Okay, so I should tell this to everyone else. Please be kind to yourself, be kind to your health. You're building an amazing, business. It needs you over the next, I don't know, 50, 60 years. So try to be in your best shape. But I'm just going to summarize this, Meron, and say we are at about close to maybe 8 billion people across the globe. It will be 9 or 10 by 2050, which is just 25 years from now. If you look back 2000, it was 25 years. So most of us will still be here, inshallah. And so the point is there is great demand for agricultural products, services, and everything. Define your niche and be open to learning, unlearning, and relearning. If your mindset is open to that, you will go far because things keep emerging and changing and always getting better. And don't be left out in the space of technology and AI. Thank you, Meron.
Great. Thank you so much, Gio. Yes, young people, please get your sleep. That is the message, combined message from Dio and Michael. Building something is very stressful. So also taking care of yourself is also part of the entrepreneurship, agripreneurship journey. So please make sure to value yourself and also take care of yourself. Unfortunately, Elizabeth wasn't able to join us, but we'll make sure to share again contacts of our panelists and also presenters in the WhatsApp group. Delight is sending it in the chat box, so please make sure to join. So with this, we've finalized our webinar. So thank you guys. Let's give them again a big round of virtual applause. You can use other reactions as well. Thank you guys so much. I think this was very insightful. It was very realistic. That's what I would say. It was very honest. So thank you for the honest conversation. So as Next Gen Agri Voices as well, our plan is to create platforms that really bring about these types of conversations amongst the stakeholders in agriculture within Africa. So we've invited donor organizations, we invited we've invited also like private sector organizations here. Yesterday we had government representatives as well with us. So this was, I think, a very interesting discussion that we need to have. We need to have this discussion as a continent. Again, Africa having the largest percentage of youth, and the biggest economy that we have is the agricultural sector. That's the biggest contributing economy. So we need to get more young people, more of this large population into the biggest sector, which is agriculture. So that is what we're trying to do. Again, the best way I feel like as Africans we could do for each other is learn from each other, from failure, as we did today and yesterday, from success. So this is the best way we feel like a lot of you again can succeed and also fine-tune your own experiences. So cross-border learning is a big part of, again, Next Gen's platform. Again, thank you everyone for joining. We're closing off our webinar. So please make sure to join. We'll send the presentations and other details in the WhatsApp group, as well as also answer the unanswered questions. Thank you to the Entrepreneurship Development Institute for partnering with Next Gen Agri Voices to host this webinar, two-day webinar, during the Global Entrepreneurship Week, which is being celebrated worldwide. Thank you guys so much. This was, I feel like, a good advancement within the sector for the agriculture sector to celebrate agripreneurship. Thank you guys. Have a good day, night, whatever time it is. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you guys. Bye.